All right, good morning. This morning we're going to be talking about a little incident that happened around the Burning Man festival over the weekend. I wanted to get to this yesterday while I was ragging on the cops for other stuff. I mean, I was pretty hard on the boys in blue yesterday, and rightfully so. I'm not backing down on that, but I want to show y'all this and talk about the difference in the application of rights. So definitely stick around this morning. And let's do this. And good morning. Ooh, sorry about that abrupt cut. I didn't do the fadey thing over here. Sorry about that. All right, good morning, good morning. I see Fish and Golf. I see Royster. Good morning. GCM, man. I saw your comment yesterday. I'm glad you enjoyed the episode. I really wish I'd have had you in the chat commenting as I was talking about some specific First and Fourth Amendment rights. I'm going to be talking about First and Fourth Amendment rights again today. And the question of police use of force, etc. So, broad strokes. Let me just. I've got an article here from Breitbart. Okay, and I haven't switched over to the article view because I want to be able to get to the videos as well. This will be the first time I'm running video again after doing some work on the sound, guys. So let me know if you're getting sound from the video clips when I play them in a minute. So Nevada tribal rangers, and that's a fun little piece of the story. Tribal rangers on Sunday plowed through a climate change protest that caused a miles-long backup, blocking traffic to the annual Burning Man festival. There's an important piece of information that's missing from that headline in this particular story, and that's that the state route on which they set up this roadblock and were causing the bad traffic backup is the only route. Right? It's not like they're blocking off a road in a downtown area, which I'm not defending doing that either. But it's not like they're blocking off a road in a downtown area or a city perimeter where there are side streets that you can get on and off of. You'll see in some of these images, like here, you can see, and I'm not going to play the sound with this one, but this car going down the road, it's just miles and miles and miles of desert, right, and traffic backed up, and that's a big deal. You're not just blocking traffic here, right? You're not just blocking traffic. You're blocking any emergency responders. You've got these people locked down. Okay, this is in Nevada. I don't know what the actual temperature was in Nevada on Sunday, but it was nearly 100 where I am in Georgia. It's drier there, so it might be a little more comfortable, but hot, y'all, is hot. I have run the gamut. I have worked in humid ass, extra humid paper mills in Savannah, Georgia, and I've done the $130 in the desert in Afghanistan. I'm here to tell you, you are more comfortable in the dry heat, sure, but dehydration is a thing. Okay, dehydration is a serious risk. Now, yesterday, and I'm going to reference this because I'm about to defend the police here. I'm about to offer a pretty full-throated defense of the police in this story. But I want to preface that with pointing to yesterday's episode. I was real hard on some cops because we were talking about New York City police using drones to conduct surveillance operations on citizens who were engaged in constitutionally protected activity, the freedom of assembly, on their own private property. Right, and absent any reasonable suspicion or probable cause, these police, without warrant, are conducting surveillance operations against American citizens without reason, without warrant, without cause. They're clearly violating the First Amendment right to peaceably assemble, the Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your person's properties and papers, right? So what we were talking about yesterday, clear violation of rights. What happened here is some climate protesters from, I believe the organization, let me see if I see it here, I believe the organization is called Climate Action Now, or General Strike for Climate, Abolish Capitalism, the Anti-Capitalist Climate Change Protesters, I want to say the name of the organization is Climate Action Now, and it's the same organization that's had people, like going into art galleries and cementing their hand to the floor to protest art installations, etc. And ostensibly their protest is against people burning fossil fuel in order to travel to the Burning Man Festival. The Burning Man Festival is not exactly a Tea Party gathering, right? But here's what happened. Let's see. Damn, there's two videos here. I want to make sure I get the right one. Yeah, okay. So this video comes to us from Freedom News, and I believe you should have audio. I'm going to turn that down a little bit because if you're getting audio, there's a lot of siren in this. So the ranger shows up. Again, these are Nevada tribal rangers.
Disband, get off the highway. This is a state route.
That right there. Oh, sorry. I didn't switch over to show you what was happening. Let me know if you're hearing the audio for this, guys.
Disband, get off the highway. This is a state route. Everybody will be arrested if not. 30 seconds. Send your leader to my vehicle. Let's talk. Get off the fucking road.
Now, okay, the officer didn't need to drop an F-bomb right there. He didn't, but I'm not too worried about that. It's not like he was screaming angrily. But let's talk about what's going on here. Like I discussed yesterday, your First Amendment freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom to petition the government for redress of grievances. In this case, these people are assembling and they're exercising their speech and expression. However, the law does make room, and there's lots of room to make arguments about what fits under this heading, and in many cases the law gets it wrong. Yes, but our laws do make room for reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. Right? So while you have the freedom of speech, the freedom to assemble, when you block a road like this, you are directly and explicitly interfering with the operation of a public property. You are preventing other citizens from being able to engage in their rights. In this case, you're blocking their right of free travel. You're blocking their right to assemble by preventing them from going to the lawful gathering. And I know that's a shocking turn of phrase in reference to the Burning Man festival, but I mean, ostensibly what these people are doing is they're trying to go to a perfectly lawful gathering, peaceful assembly of people, right? And I'm not 100% on this, but I'm probably 95% certain that Burning Man is on private property. And again, we're talking about peaceful assembly on private property. So these protesters are blocking a public thoroughfare. Many times in the past, we've talked about the criminalization of drugs and how it's done under the Commerce Clause, which is, the connection is tenuous and spurious at best. But under the Commerce Clause, the government has, in theory, broad control to make regular activity between states, commerce, trade, travel, transmission, across the borders between the several United States. So even there, we find, in the law at least, coverage for these officers to operate in the way that we're about to watch. I know there's some buildup going on here because this video it warms my heart. I'm struggling to keep talking until I get to where the Indians attack, because I love it when the Indians attack. My wife's a Comanche. I love it when the Indians attack. These people are blocking a public thoroughfare. A reasonable time, place, and manner restriction definitely applies when you're talking about blocking a public road, because you are now not peacefully assembling. What you are doing when you block a public road is not peaceful assembly. I don't care how peacefully you block the road, right? If you sit on a man's chest to suffocate him, you may not scream or shout or throw any punches. That doesn't qualify as peaceful, because what you're doing here is a measure of force. You have established a barricade to prevent the legal, rightful passage of citizens on a public road. This is a legitimate function of government, to protect the rights of citizens, even against other citizens. And as I've pointed out many times in the past, like many of the other tactics of leftist activists, the blocking of a route, we have an MOS in the Army, a military occupational specialty called combat engineer. Combat engineers, they build walls, they blow up bridges, they make landmine emplacements, they set up concertina wire fences. The point to any of these things, including the landmines, right? A minefield, you do not ever expect people to get blown up in a minefield. It happens, but you don't put a minefield down because you think that the enemy's going to haphazardly wander into it. Hell no. You lay a minefield and then you label it. The point to the minefield is to deny access to the enemy, to force them to go where you want them to go, to alter their route. Altering, blocking, destroying, removing routes is a military action. It is an act of war. As surely as showing up, placing barricades around a designated geographical area and denying access to that area to government, military, or law enforcement operatives, like, for example, I don't know, setting up an autonomous zone inside of your own country, that is insurrection activity. These protesters are engaged in the act of insurrection. They're engaged in the conduct of war through the use of violence and the military specialty of route management and engineering for the purpose of making a political point. They're using violence to send a political message. These climate activists are terrorists. They're insurrectionists, they're terrorists, and they're conducting war against the people of the United States of America. And in this case in particular, they are not conducting war specifically against the government. They're conducting a war against the people. Right? So when we see this happen, it just warms my cockles. I haven't seen any fresh comments. Y'all let me know if you're getting audio over there. Because I'm about to run this video.
Tommy!
Okay, I've got notes. Thanks, guys. Good audio. I think I've actually got a better angle on the incident. Is this one it? Oh no, that's okay. So that's somebody flying a drone and showing us how far these climate terrorists had the traffic backed up. That's pretty substantial. And okay, here's Ian Miles Chong with the longer video, or not the longer video, the better video. So he comes up on it, and you see they've got this trailer here. If you look, the protesters have chained themselves to the trailer. Now, there are several reasons that I really enjoy the fact that this was tribal police that did this.
Yeah.
Get to those in a second. Okay, he flips back around. Watch, there's another car. There's another police pickup truck that comes up right here. Boom. And he immediately jumps out and goes for the weapon. Now, in a lot of situations where the cop immediately jumps out and goes for the weapon, I would be highly critical. I would. In this case, however, like I said, these guys are engaged in the conduct of war. It would not be reasonable, no matter what the facade of it appears to be, it would not be reasonable to assume that these people are not armed and dangerous and operating with nefarious intent. If you've got somebody presenting a peaceful front, presenting an approachable front, who is obviously doing something nefarious, completely distinct from the question of whether or not they're individually a hazard, armed, dangerous, etc. If you operate under the assumption that the facade you're getting from the person who is otherwise clearly engaged in evil is an honest representation of their intent or capabilities, you are putting yourself in a tremendously dangerous position. Right? For example, you're in full battle rattle, you're out on patrol with your military unit in Afghanistan, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, wherever you happen to be deployed at the time. And your armed patrol is approached by what appears to be a woman in a burqa, she's completely covered, and she's carrying a bundle as if it's a baby. And after having been told, hand out, Waterega, stop. She continues to approach. When that baby explodes, I'm sorry, guys, as heartbreaking as it is that there are people evil enough to dress bombs up like babies and use them to murder soldiers, the fact remains that those people exist, and you have to be prepared to deal with that. And that's not a position that I hope any of you ever find yourselves in, but that is the position, broadly, that these officers found themselves in here, is they're approaching people engaged in the conduct of war, people conducting insurrection and terrorism against the people of the United States of America, and they cannot reasonably assume that people who have already committed themselves to the act of war are not fully committed to extending that war to its obvious logical conclusion. In a case like this, if the officer draws his weapon and he's wrong, nobody gets dead. In a case like this, if the officer does not draw his weapon and he's wrong, at least one cop dies. And then there's a gunfight. And you've got protesters, and it might even be that only one of these protesters is an actual threat. But as soon as that one returns fire, and you've got a shootout between one guy surrounded by unarmed people and officers, crossfire, the ramifications, the fallout from that are going to be devastating. So here we're looking at, like I said, reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. You do not have the right to peacefully assemble if you're exercising that right in such a way that it interferes with someone else's rights. Right? If your exercise of your rights interferes with my exercise of my rights, you are not exercising rights. In fact, what you're exercising is authority. And if that authority is illegitimate, I have every right to challenge it. That is what it means to petition the government for redress of grievances, or to pursue civil action or even criminal action against another citizen who is interfering in your rights. Example, nope. I had an example teed up that I was thinking about, and I just lost it. So the reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. We're not talking here about a First Amendment auditor who's on a piece of private property filming what he can see from public. Now, I will grant that what you have going on here around this incident is some of these protesters are filming the incident. And hey, good on them. Always film the police. In this case, the police are right. And you have rather spectacularly provided footage to prove that these police are right. And in fact, in this particular case, it's rather amusing that the protesters, it's the protesters that released the video. Excuse me. And they have been roundly and entirely roasted all over social media. The country largely has gotten tired of the bullshit. We've gotten tired of the sociopaths and the sycophants. We've lost our patience with being dictated and lectured to by people with deep mental illnesses, violent people, evil people. Now, we are going into an election season. And I want you guys to remember, for every one of you who thinks that your vote doesn't count, let me remind you that these guys, these people right here, they vote. Every one of them. In fact, these guys probably vote 3 or 4 times if the evidence is any indicator. In Georgia right now, we have 2 Democrat senators, Warnock and Ossoff. That happened because Republicans got talked out of voting, ostensibly by other Republicans. We're convinced that their vote doesn't count, and so you should boycott the vote, right? That was Sidney, what's-her-face, and Woods. Georgia voters were talked out of voting because many of us believed that our vote didn't count because the 2020 election was stolen. I say us. I voted against Ossoff and Warnock. And if I'm being frank, I wasn't particularly fond of the alternatives, but they were alternatives to Democrat psychopathy and evil. And that is a problem that we face in our electorate as Republicans is we're voting for, our vote tends to be between garbage and evil. But I did vote against the both of them, and the fact is, and this isn't speculation. I mean, I go to the GOP meetings. I speak with high-profile GOP representatives. I've seen the numbers. I've seen the exit polling. I've seen the data, and the fact is, a much lower percentage of voters voted in that runoff than voted in the general, and that's how we lost the Senate, right? That's how the country lost the Senate, because Republicans in Georgia stayed home because they were demoralized by the obvious corruption of the 2020 election. You can't let that happen to you guys. You cannot let that happen to you. You have to get up off your ass, take a friend, and go vote. Do not let that shit happen again. Oh. Okay. So, tomorrow, I'm going to do a little bit of quick housekeeping and then wrap this one up. Tomorrow, I've got 2 things that I want to talk about. I almost did the show on this today, but I thought, no, Cameron's going to want to be in on this. I'm going to put this one off for tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'm either going to talk about the theoretically impending shutdown, to which I say, shut it down. Please, God, shut it down. Or I've got this other news article about neighborhood schools being set up as a school-based clinic to bill Medicaid so that children can be psychoanalyzed for health/mental health services at schools. I have to read this. I have to read into this some more and make sure that this isn't some nut job bullshit from some far-right kook that's reading too much into something, and make sure that I've got what that headline refers to as legitimate information. On a cursory examination, there appears to be something to it, and it is concerning. So that's either going to be so tomorrow we're either going to be talking about the shutdown or that, unless something else comes up. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it. Ma, Granddad, I see you watching this morning. It's good to have you back. Sorry I didn't catch you sooner and maybe pull you over at a Quick Trip or something on your way home, but good to have you back at home. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow. To be clear, we'll see you on the show tomorrow morning because we do the show every morning at 7:30 live. I'm not driving down to the damn farm tomorrow, guys. I'm sorry. It's a long way.